Look at this, we're getting a few more bikes coming in. Unbelievable.
Yeah, slowly running in and
For the time of day.
What's lunchtime? You've got to time these things properly.
Oh, well, there. Yeah, I never thought of that.
Nevertheless, he doesn't share it, so he might be not. That's wisdom lost, you know. So I don't tell you that
the actual load carrying capacity you can only adjust stationary because it moves it up and down.
Yeah, so you hop on by yourself and you can just have one helmet, if it's the same as what's on mine, which is the earlier model, and then you go press it and hold it a bit longer and two helmets will come up, so it means two people, and if you keep your finger on the button it'll go, then it'll show plus luggage.
Well, this goes helmet plus luggage, two people, which is two plus luggage, but I keep it on one person plus luggage because it lifts it a little bit.
It's all over.
You, I think.
Are you on the air? No. Called in.
You missed it.
Old people asking old people.
Yes, and how do you
What'd you say?
With the old.
What'd you say?
find everything?
That's lovely too, I really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the good part about this too is that it's got a really bright screen full day light. That's the best part.
Oh yeah,
And I can set
especially
up.
for outdoor use.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, otherwise
It's a Panasonic Tough Book.
yeah, they're pretty pricey. That's about $5,000. So what I'll do is I'll do an auto scan, and what that does is it looks at every feature of the bike and every instrument cluster and all that sort of stuff.
Does it tell you the rider's too fat?
It does. It says that. So click on that and it says, do you want to perform that auto scan?
Well, I know I am.
Is an
Say yes.
I get on and it says one at a time, please.
Just general motorbike information, you give them all that sort of stuff, so check. Now, because they've changed the CAN bus, the earlier CAN bus they had different terminology, so each of these headings are for the cluster. There's the engine.
I spent 21 years as a bike instructor doing advanced courses, learner courses and everything in between to stay upright, and most of the time, and for a few years for heart as well. So it was probably the most common question I get asked by experienced riders. You know, I just can't, you know, I've got to park the bike somewhere and I'm dodgy and not sure, not confident. Anyone can go fast in a straight line or even round a few corners. But a lot of people have trouble with that manoeuvring and stop-start sort of riding. Your biggest friend at low speed is your back brake, okay? But most people go out of habit, I'll just keep my fingers over the front brake in case I've got to stop. And the moment your bike gets off that straight ahead, any application of front brake throws the weight forward, and on rebound, that's when they jump out from under you. That makes sense? Your weight goes forward because you've touched the brake, but if you're on any turn or lean, the rebound is back up the forks, poof, over it goes. It doesn't matter how big and tall you are, it's going to be a handful to try and hold it. So that's why at low speed, don't have your hand near your front brake. It's your main brake, 90% or plus of your braking, front brake. But for low speed manoeuvring, coming in that last little bit as you stop at the traffic lights where the slippery white line is and that, little bit of back brake, except of course these are all done linked. A tiny bit of back brake on most bikes will just bring you to the spot you want. You don't want that sudden as you stop, especially if it might be slippery. So that's the first thing about low speed riding. rely on your back brake and leave the front brake alone if you've got any angle or turning, that'll bugger you up. Recent trip some of us did to Africa, the guy who owned the bike said to us, we're on a dirt road, some of us decided to do a thing, and we're coming down quite steep terrain, most of the people not much dirt experience, and he said, just don't touch the front brake. But he didn't give them any other information, so I said, sorry, that we all do need to use our front brake coming downhill because all the weight's on the front wheel, but using it early and gently to wash off that bit of speed. But when you're at the corner, get your hand away from the front brake, and you may even have to touch the back and kick it out a little bit if you think I'm going a bit hot here. You could use a bit of back brake to actually kick it sideways and get round the corner. Of course, you can't do that with the front. So it was just interesting that they were his bikes, and I said, I think we'd better still use them in the straight line before the corner, but don't touch a front brake in a corner for that same reason I explained earlier. Making sense? Okay.
There's some weight shift involved as well, isn't it?
Sorry?
There would be some weight shift involved as well.
Weight shift as well. And when you're using as much grip as possible to get you around even the bitumen corner, you haven't got 100 units for braking and 100 units for grip and steering. You've got 100 units altogether, and some of us ride hard enough that you're using 99, even 100% of your grip in a corner. It's too late to think, and I'll just apply a little bit of brake, because that'll be when it lets go, whether that's at speed. Anyway, the other thing that we find people, it's a confidence thing. You know, I did years of teaching learners, and they all want to take off on the bike when they're first letting the clutch out, and they're looking here. Because you don't want to look up there, because we're just concentrating so hard, look here. You go, no, get your head up, because guess where you get your balance? Between your ears and your eyes, it lets you know if you've got balance. I still see it with people teaching their kids to ride push bikes, and the kids are riding along looking like this. You go, get your head up, look where you want to go. It's such a basic thing, and sometimes we need to be reminded, yeah, if I keep my head up. Now, we're doing a tight U-turn. We don't do this. Where's my front wheel doing? Turn your head and look where you want the bike to be going. Same as on a high-speed open road. You get to a corner, don't look halfway through the bend, if you can. Turn your head, look out there, that's where it's finishing. And while my head's over there, I can still bring my eyes back and look in front of the bike. Check the surface of the road. Over there's where I want to finish up. The moment you bring your head back, your bike's coming back to that point. It's not going over there where you want it to go. So it's something that applies whether you're doing low speed or high speed. Once we get to this low speed manoeuvring, turn your head. Now, everyone knows you're supposed to lean into a turn. That works once you get going, 20, 30, 40k an hour above. Yeah, you lean in. The more you lean in, the less you've got to do with your handlebar. And while you're leaning in, it's actually without you even thinking about it, putting that counter steer pressure. Because you've dropped the shoulder down and looking in, the bike's doing that. Onto that right edge of the tyre. Low speed, we've got to use the steering. But don't put it on full lock. You usually don't need full lock. About halfway. And compensate at low speed by moving your weight across the seat a bit. Not only does that make it easier to turn and look where you want to finish up, you're counterbalancing the bike purely by just leaning yourself, even slide your bum a bit across the seat. That'll give you the balance. Nothing, you don't normally do that on the road going around a bend, but for any manoeuvring in car parks, service stations, anywhere with low speed, you're going to be turning, think about have I balanced the bike. I might get Axel just to stand here for a minute so I can show you.
Have money to collect?
He wants to collect money. I'm sorry. I shouldn't have asked him to hold the back of the bike. Just stand behind, hold both sides. Yep. Rear axle. You become a rear axle, that's right. So if I turn the bars and lean that way, let it lean a little bit, so straight away it wants to go there. Whereas if I do that, and hold it steady, and I get out here, how much harder do you have to hold on?
Almost.
Basically
I
balance.
can do it almost with, you know, my.
That's what I'm trying to say, that low speed, keeping your legs in, flexible at the waist, out here. And look, I'm going the other way, a little bit that way, bum over on the seat a bit, still got access to rear brake.
Yeah.
Yeah. Balance. But if I just lean in, it becomes a handful. So just some basic stuff. I mean, I'm not teaching you blokes to suck eggs. Most of you probably got an idea of this, but sometimes someone just explaining to you what you're doing, and you go, oh, that's it.
Does it work with other bikes and BMWs?
I had a guy tell me one day you couldn't do a tight turn on a K1100 LT because it was too big. So I said, give me your bike. And I did a Dewey on the spot, and he went, oh, bullshit. And I went, it's the same technique, whether you're using a little sports bike. On a sports bike where you haven't got much leverage, the more you lean, the easier it is to turn. When you've got little sports bars, still works on them, get your weight over. And at least if it falls over, it's easy to pick up. Now,
Always look on the bright side.
that's it. So I'll just do a couple of slow turns, dragging a bit of brake. Yes, on a bike this big, tiny bit of clutch slip. It's designed to do that, a little bit. But of course you don't keep the revs up and cook the clutch doing it around and around and around. Try and, you know, where you can clutch out, adjust the friction. So I'll just give you a couple of demonstrations either way. Then Axel will answer questions while he's collecting your money. Okay, tight right hand turn from standstill. Modulating the back brake, looking where I want to go. Want to go left, move my weight, rear brake, lean a bit more, get it tighter. Otherwise, on a stop, straighten your bars, bit of back brake. Even with a skid, doesn't matter, stable. Any questions?
Well done, Ross.
What's it like to do it with a pillion?
Sorry?
What's it like to do it with a pillion?
Your pillion should always copy you exactly. So if you're doing that biking body out, your pillion should lean, bring their body over with yours and turn their head and look where you're looking.
Doesn't work for my business.
Because what, and you need to probably practice with them a few times at home with the mattress or something around the bike.
Oh, that's good. Yeah.
You can't see where I'm leaning or where I'm looking.
Just go with you?
No, Nancy just does what she does. She's very good.
But I've done it where I took people who'd never
It'd be
been
awkward
pillioned
doing
in their
slow
life,
turns,
who were Ulysses Club members off Harbour a few years ago. Took them up on a bit of a ride with the commentator. I was commentating on why I'm where I am on the road, what we're doing in the traffic, what we're watching for over the brow of a hill. Bit of a thing, and when we got to the car park over the other side of the hill, the back of Coffs was a big gravel car park. I said, we're going to do a Yui here, and you'd feel them. Oh. I go, yeah, just relax. Now I'm going to turn my head and do this, and you are too. And I just do a slow turn, like I just showed, two up on a 1150 or 1200 boxer it was. And I'm talking to them, explaining it. They couldn't talk back to me, which was really handy. I wanted to get my wife one of those things. But they could hear every instruction and what I was doing, and everyone went back, and then when Jessica was like, that is amazing. We had no idea you could do that on a gravel, two up, heavy bike. One bloke even said to me, he said, I've never been a pillion on a bike before in my life, and I've got to tell you, I was shitting myself till we left. He said, when we got back, he said, if I ever get really crook, I'm going to contact you and you can ride me anywhere in Australia. He said, I've never felt so safe. I didn't realise how much you know, you can think about and concentrate on what you can do. He said, I had no idea. Another woman said, wait till I see my husband, he's going to get a thrashing. The way he rides that bike and scares me. He said, I didn't feel that with you.
Did you have a yellow bikini?
They probably trying to get another one.
I can't remember. I didn't want to see her stripped down. She was a Ulysses woman, a little older than my preferred.
Oh, I don't know.
I was a lot younger than myself.
Oh, okay.
Bullshit stops now, okay?
Okay.
Ross, years ago, I was riding with a Harley rider on his old WLA.
Yep.
Which broke down at Lawn.
I can't believe that.
Now, he had the option of riding on a rigid aerial on a metal frame or the back of my 60/5.
Right.
Back to Colac. He said, I'll give you an answer after lunch. I said, that's all right. So he came to me very sheepishly after lunch and said, is it all right if I come back with you?
Right.
I said, yes. I said, have you ever pillioned before? Yes. Well, this guy got on the back of the 60/5.
Yep. Which way do you face?
Right. Stay there. You got the bike?
I got it.
Right.
Yep.
The hard thing in your back is he's happy to see you.
He was steering all the way to Colac.
And I stopped. I said, listen,
Get off.
just put your hands on your knees and relax. By the time we got to Colac, he was a different passenger altogether.
I thought he was still on.
But he was trying to...
He knew with the handlebars.
Yeah.
Stay on there. Can you do that anti-clockwise tight turn again, please?
Not with him doing that.
Just put your hands on your knees and relax. Let's see it. Anti-clockwise.
I went to a doctor once and he said he's going to give me a one of those checks at the back, and when he had both hands on my shoulders, I started getting real worried.
Excellent.
There is rubber gloves in the trailer as well.
Yeah, thank you.
While you are there, while you're on the bike and while you're geared up and you showed us slow riding, is there perhaps any other little thing you could still speak to that you could kind of show us? Out of your basket of experience?
Okay.
Show them how to stand when you're doing sand.
Where's the man who owns this bike?
Marcos.
He's there. He's hiding. I'm looking for you in yellow for some reason. Any problem if I gently put your bike on the ground and lift it up? Okay. Most of you have seen this, but usually it's not a demonstration. It's out of dire need. If your bike tips over and you're maybe by yourself, even if there's someone nearby who maybe isn't a motorcyclist, there's a couple of things to think about. The good thing about a boxer is, of course, it only goes over halfway, unless you're really being silly. And you hope it hasn't damaged your panniers. But if it tips and it's down there, there's a couple of recommended ways to do this without injuring your back, without making it any worse, the situation. Usually if your bike falls from a low speed thing, it's probably in gear. In which case you leave it in gear, because when you lift it up you don't want to have to chase it down the road before it falls the next time. Make sense? It's a brake if it's in gear. Okay, that's a good idea.
Get a full one, you bird.
Oh, yeah, just help us. Just gently over. Ready? Oh no, there's cans in there. They're empty. So, bikes like this, and we got a problem. There's no side stand on the right. If it was on the other side, you put your side stand down. Reason being, it's in gear, side stand down. When you pick it up, it's only going to go onto the side stand. You're not going to have that moment where, shit, oh no, now I've got to practice picking up the other way. Make sense? Now, there's a couple of ways to pick up a bike. The one I prefer is use the handlebars as a lever, and we're using our leg muscles, not our back and arm particularly.
So you
Make
point
sense?
the front wheel to the sky.
Sorry?
You point the front wheel to the sky.
It doesn't run away on you.
Okay. So you get your hands under the end of the bar.
Yeah.
If you've got someone there to help you, that always helps. But remember, if it's on the this side and they don't know about bikes, a do-gooder will race up and say, "I'll help you, mate," and they might grab the muffler. I've heard of it happening so many times. So now you've got a helper who's not really happy and he's got burnt hands. So, you know, you tell them, oh, hold on to the rack there on the count of 3, and then
We'll do it together.
1, 2, leg muscles, lifting, lifting, lifting to that central point. Still in gear. Now, while it's there, what if you had to walk around the bike? You're right.
You put the side stand down, would you not?
No, no. Let's say you couldn't put the side stand down. And you've got to keep that bike balanced. It's a really good exercise to understand that if you keep your bike perfectly upright, you can walk around it. Hold the top of the windscreen. Bike, I'm holding that with 3 fingers and a thumb.
Before you do, you get your breath back and think about it.
Yeah, that helps. A lot of people hurt themselves because they're panicking. What if my mates come past and see me lying by the road? Don't worry about that. So we're working our way around the bike. Oop. Holding on. See how the moment that got off centre, started to be a handful. Work your way around the bike like so.
Should have had the
Still
camera on
upright.
Marcus's
So
face
why
when
would
that
you do
happened.
that? Wouldn't it be easy to throw your leg over the bike and straddle it?
Depends what
Necessarily.
different situation. You might have,
If you're on slopey ground, you can't do that.
That's not.
on sloping ground, that was my next point. Thanks, Warwick, which is, people go, oh no, if you fall over halfway up a slope and they can't get under the bike to lift it.
You turn it wrong.
Now, it goes against the grain, but you get hold of your front wheel and you drag it down, even if it's taking a bit of paint off your crash bar, drag the bike around so you can get up the high side of it to lift the bike up. So you're not trying to lift a bike that's more than, you know, facing downhill. Something I learnt from dirt bike riding, it makes life a whole lot easier. Anyway, and if all else fails, put the side stand down.
Can you lay that bike down again, Ross? I've got a little video of a chap showing 3 techniques to lift up a bike.
Yep.
And the third option was a young woman, his girlfriend, whatever, who'd probably be 50 kilos wringing wet.
Yep.
And she stood on the back wheel on the opposite side to where you're standing.
Yep.
Formed a L shape with her body, with her backside sticking out, holding the rack with her feet on the tyre.
Yep.
And as the guy lifted it up, she acted like ballast.
Yep.
And when the bike was upright, she virtually just put her bum on the ground, and the guy just lifted it up almost effortlessly.
That's all right if you've got a girlfriend who's prepared to do that.
This is a drum, that's it.
I think it would work with a bloke too.
With a bloke, yeah. You made me think of something else when you were saying that.
Yeah, but it wasn't anything to do with bikes.
No, it was.
The sense of balance when you put both people on the same side.
Yeah, yeah. The other one I was going to say is, of course, this lay it down there.
You can get the expensive end.
Ready? The other method I've seen, which might suit some people, is getting in like this and slowly, slowly, slowly. And that's why the side stand is down. Yeah? Now that might work better as well. And I just remembered what else I was going to say.
little girl pick up a
If you've got a pannier
GSA
still on the bike, we all know
as a
like,
demo.
if you're on your own, top box, luggage, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, take that couple of minutes to take it off. It's going to be sometimes a lot easier. Sometimes.
If you
But if
have
this
been riding
pannier-
if you have been riding a day through Mongolia through sand and you're dog tired and you fall off the third time, you sit there and you wait for somebody coming past
Even
to
better.
give you a hand. Bloody hell.
Even better.
Tell you what.
But my
If
comment
it takes
is-
an hour, it doesn't matter.
My comment is, if it's resting on a pannier, don't take the pannier off. It's going to go further. And there's a lot to be said for that pannier. You were talking about the girl being a counterweight. You got a pannier with a bit of weight here. Once you get to a certain point, that's going to help it come up, isn't it? So it's one of those things you've got to decide it on the day. You know, undo your luggage and into it.
Yeah, no, yeah.
Try anything.
The last time I had to pick up my bike, I was on my West Australian trip, pulled in for a roadside stop, you know, water the plants. And I pulled off the bit dirt road, stopped. When I got back on, I realised I had a fairly heavy sand drift. I was on one of these with panniers and top off. Took off, stood up, didn't have enough initial drive and the front caught, and I went in on the left-hand side. On my own, middle of nowhere, like between Wave Rock and Norseman, to 250 k's. Not a lot of people out there. So I did what I just said. I had a big bag plus the top box, panniers. So I calmly undid it all, walked out and put them on the side of the road and picked up the empty bike. And because of where it was, I wasn't going backwards. I actually started the bike, put in gear and gently walked it out under drive. It was from here to the back of the Falcon. And made the stupid mistake of turning it round and facing the side of the road I was on when I had to go that way. So it's one of those times I did one of those practice type turns on a loose gravel road in the middle of nowhere after I just picked it up. I had to make sure I didn't stuff it up. And just as I was getting back on the bike, the car went past. I packed it all back. Anyway, that's it, unless anyone's got any other questions.
Ross,
Yeah.
let's say it's over on its side and you're in the middle of a stream, big yawnies all over the place. Any
Check your insurance is current.
the water's up
You've got to
your
do
nerves.
that before you go.
Yeah.
Any modifications to the
I think photo moving.
Sorry, the one thing, and that, Trevor, the one thing I didn't say, if the motor's still running, that's what the kill switch is for, or if you can get your key, turn the key. The number of people who try and pick up a bike while it's still running, in gear or not, you know, it becomes a major problem. Yeah, in the water situation, definitely turn the bike off as quickly as possible so you're not sucking any water in.
As long as you don't follow people on 1200 GSs with hard panniers, you won't have these problems. Roll all over the stream, and then you work out which part of the stream to go through. Just don't stay behind them because they fall off all the time.
Fuck, I'm not going to ride with you, Nick, you bastard.
So if they didn't have hard panniers, they wouldn't fall off?
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get rid of my hard panniers.
Good idea.
Okay?
Thank you.
Let's get back to our task.
The first time it was fathers, the last time it was sons, and in between your husbands marched away with drums and guns, and you never thought to question, you just went on with your lives, 'cause all they'd taught you who to be was mothers, daughters, wives. You can only just remember the tears your mothers shed as they sat and read their papers through the lists and lists of dead, and the gold frames held the photographs that mothers kissed each night, and the door frames held the shocked and silent strangers from the fight. And the first time it was fathers, the last time it was sons. And in between your husbands marched away with drums and guns. And you never thought to question, you just went on with your lives. 'Cause all they'd taught you who to be was mothers, daughters, wives. And it was 21 years later, with children of your own, the trumpet sounded once again, and the soldier boys were gone. And you drove their trucks and made their guns, and tended to their wounds. And at night you kissed their photographs and prayed for safe returns. And after it was over, you had to learn again to be just wives and mothers when you'd done the work of men. So you worked to help the needy, and you never trod on toes. And the photos on the piano struck a happy family pose. And the first time it was fathers, the last time it was sons. And in between your husbands marched away with drums and guns. And you never thought to question, you just went on with your lives. 'Cause all they taught you who to be was mothers, daughters, wives. And then your daughters grew to women, and your little boys to men. And you prayed that you were dreaming when the call-up came again. But you proudly smiled and held your tears as they bravely waved goodbye. And the photos on the mantelpieces always made you cry. And now you're getting older, and in time the photos fade. And in widowhood you sit back and reflect on the parade of the passing of your memories as your daughters change their lives, seeing more to our existence than just mothers, daughters, wives. But the first time it was fathers, the last time